Hey gang, Jones here, back with another video here today, and today we're going to talk about the one thing I think Gray Zone desperately needs. Let's get into it. Now, if you are strictly a PvE player or a fan, this video really doesn't pertain to you, and I just want to say that because I just don't like to waste people's time. I like to make my videos short and sweet, so I just want to let that know. The game needs better matchmaking, in my opinion. Now, I don't want this game to be like PvP constantly, right? I don't want it to be like Arena Breakout or Tarkov, but I do enjoy PvP. And when I've had PvP in Gray Zone, it is extremely fun. Like I really, really enjoy it. You don't really know you don't really know to expect it. And it's super, super fun. The only problem is that I rarely ever see a server that is 16 v 16 v 16. Now, this is coming from a Mithras standpoint, and I believe the order of like the faction popularity or like how many people have selected each faction, it goes Mithras, Crimson, and Lemang. And from a Mithras player standpoint, like I rarely ever see the fact that there are, 16, 16, 16. Like I have rated both Crimson and Lemang, and when I got there are no players at all. Like there's no helis going over top, there are no players inside. Actually, we got into the Lemang base and we got into their building and we sat there for about 10 to 15 minutes and there was not one single person on the server. And I was on a PvP server. So, and there was nobody coming in, there's nobody coming out, there's nobody spawning, there was nobody anything. It was literally just the AI guards that are within the base. And like for me, when I go raid a base, like I know that I'm probably going to lose all my stuff. That's not the issue. It's just like when I go there, I want to experience like the PvP action that, could take place. Now, I'm not saying like all 16 players have to be at the base because obviously they're around the map or whatever. But that's why we waited to 10 to 15 minutes and no one came. So like in my opinion, I feel like that's a really big deal because if there's no one on the other team, you might as well just play PvE. Now, I'm not sure of the exact way you fix this issue. I'm not sure exactly what you do. I'm going to name 3 of mine that I've came up with, and I'm just going to talk about ways that I think that maybe you could combat it a little bit and be able to make it more even where it's like 16, 16, 16, or at least just a more even number where it's not just one faction and then there's nobody on the other team or faction on the map itself. So number 1, me personally, just me speaking, I would wait longer to get into a game itself if you could at least populate both factions or some, or to all 16. So if I could get in and there was like 10 or 15 on the other 2 factions, like that would be fine to me if I had to wait to get into a server. Now, obviously, that's not ideal because when we start having faction, like with the camps and stuff like that, like it's not really ideal because like they're at a disadvantage or we're at a disadvantage. But like I'm willing to wait longer to be able to get into servers that are populated by other players. I also have zero idea how they prioritize their matchmaking. I don't know if it's strictly based on time because every single time that I click on deploy, I'm in the game right now. So I don't know if, there's like 16 on Mithras and then there's like 6 on Lemang and 6 on Crimson. I don't know how they spread out the number of players that select to go into the game based on what their faction is. I don't know if they try to fill up that server with the faction members or they just move on and create another server based on how many people, select deploy at the same time. I have zero idea how that works. So my second solution would be limit the number of people that can select certain factions. Now, this is 110% not ideal because it limits players' choices, and I don't really support it, but I think it could fix a problem because it limits how many people are in each faction, which gives, even split on how many people are on certain factions, and it makes matchmaking a little bit easier. Obviously, I know this is not ideal. I don't like to limit player choice, especially in a game like this, where you have the choice of so many things like PvE, PvP, the different helis you go to. You can walk, you can use a heli, and when they put in items, you're going to have like all these different items and crafting and stuff. I don't like to limit player choice, but it's just one of the solutions, the very few solutions that I have to maybe fix the problem. So my third solution kind of ties into the first one. So it's limit the number of more popular factions and servers to make sure the other factions are filled up. So like 10 for the more popular factions and then the other ones have 16. Now, this is not ideal too, because when we start having those faction camps and then ground zero where we have to like collaborate with our own faction, it doesn't help much because those are based on PvP and working with a team. And if you limit yourself of how many team members you have for the other members, like Crimson have 16, Meng have 16, and Mithras have 10, it's not really favorable because when you go into these faction camps and to fight for stuff, it's an uneven balance and it's not really fair. So this isn't a really popular, solution to the thing. It's just a solution that I came up with because I think it can help the problem. Now, I know those last 2, the second and third, are not ideal, because it limits player choice. And not only does it limit player choice, it gives the other factions a disadvantage. So I know my last two solutions weren't ideal, and I don't even really support them, but they're just solutions to a problem that we are having. So if you have any other solutions for this, leave them down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Maybe somebody from Madfinger or Grayzone sees it and says, hey, let's try this. Let's start thinking about it, stuff like that. So let's get a conversation started down in the comments, and hopefully we can address this problem that I think is one of the biggest that Grayzone is having. Gang, if you are enjoying the video and want to keep up with Grayzone guides and news, consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, this problem could be just because the player numbers are down and people are just waiting for the content patch later this year. You know, the rise in player count could fix some of the issues, but with the lopsided numbers of factions, it may not fix the issue. I know when the game first came out and it was extremely popular and a lot of these popular streamers were playing the game, it seemed like the problem wasn't that big just based on the pure size of the people playing the game. So that could possibly fix the issue when the content patch releases later this year. But I still want to talk about it just in case we get into this funk where there's not as many people playing again. Now, I do want to end on this. I don't want the game to turn into team deathmatch, okay? But I also want a little fear of losing my stuff outside of AI. And I feel like this problem, we could push the game in, the right direction and hopefully make it better for everybody that does want to play PvP, but doesn't just want to sweat and worry and be terrified when they're in the game. They want to just do their quest, but then also have the fear of losing some stuff at the same time. Anyway, guys, with that being said, I'm Jones and I'm out. Peace.